Falleria, 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 Lord. Sign rookity gookity gookity gook, gook, sign falleria, Lord. I pranced around on an outdoor wooden stage, doing my best impression of a rooster while I sang that song. My 78-year-old, 6'4", Tom Selleck, handsome father, stood next to me, telling a German folk tale about a man selling roosters who changed from being mean to being kind when he met a little boy. We were on the storytelling stage at the Barberville, Florida Fall Jamboree. Our tandem tale was a hit. As we drove home, bubbling with excitement about our day, I looked at an index card my father had taped to the bottom of his rear view mirror. In his meticulous cursive, he had written, "Storytelling is the sharing of caring. It's never too late to become the person you were meant to be." I welled up with gratitude for my dad, for my friendship with him, for getting to tell stories with him. That day 22 years ago with my father and the relationship I got to have with him at the end of his life is precious to me. That day almost never happened. I'd like to tell you the story of the day 25 years ago that made it possible for me to tell the rooster story with my dad at Barberville. I don't want to go. Stop asking me. I sat across from my sweet-faced, silver-haired mother at the green Formica table in her sunny yellow kitchen. She was trying to convince me to go see my 75-year-old father before he had open heart surgery the next day. I hadn't seen or talked to my father for 5 years. After decades of him bullying and criticizing members of our family, I reached my limit when he lit into my brother at a family dinner, and I cut him off. It became my mother's mission to rejoin my father and I. Her name was Irene, which means peace. That morning in her kitchen, Mom's determination was urgent. "I'm concerned you'll always regret it if something happens to your father and you haven't made things right with him." "I didn't make things wrong, Mom." My mother reached across the table and wrapped her hands around my hands. "I know your father's been difficult and things in our family have been messy, but still there's love in your father and you trying to get out. There's a good man in your father trying to get out. Sometimes the goodness in people gets buried under their pain. We need to allow people to be who they are now and not hold them to who they were then." I yanked my hands away. "You're overly optimistic, Mom. People don't change." Mom pulled out her big guns. I'm going to be afraid for your soul the rest of my life if you don't go." I didn't want to be worried about my mother worrying about my soul for the rest of her life. So, 2 hours later, I sat stiff and alert in a straight back chair in a pale green private hospital room, listening to the beep, beep, beep of a heart monitor, feeling a little nauseous from the odor of disinfectant, watching my father sleep. Even though his chest was working hard and he was gulping for air with his mouth open, his body under a white blanket looked as strong and powerful as ever. My mind jerked backwards. I'm 6 years old. sitting on the hardwood floor of a dark closet behind musty smelling clothes, curled in a ball, hugging my legs to my chest, my head on my knees, crying, listening to my father crash around the house yelling, hoping he wouldn't find me, cringing when the closet door opens and he hauls me out by the arm. I forced my brain back into the hospital room. I can't do this, I thought. I can tell Mom I came. It's not my fault. He was sleeping. As I pulled the door handle to leave, I heard behind me, "Rosemarie, is that you?" I shuffled back to the chair, sat down, and stared at the floor. I had no idea what to say. My dad jumped right in. "I'm so glad you came. I haven't always been kind. I know that. It's been a learning process for me. I got lost behind addiction and anger. It was never about you. I'm sorry I hurt you." He pushed his hand out from under the cover toward me. "I was hoping we could have another chance to know each other if I make it through this." I was stunned. I'd never heard my father speak like that. I looked at his palm reaching out to me. I got another flashback. I'm 4 years old, twirling around with my arms outstretched, feeling a beautiful breeze on my arms, feeling soft green grass under my bare feet, looking up at a brilliant blue sky, smelling the roses in my grandmother's backyard, laughing as my dad holds his hand out for me to dance with him and sings me my favorite song. Fa-la-dee-a-dee-a, 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 Lord. Sign rookity-cookity-cookity-cook, sign fa-la-dee-a-dee-a, Lord. I'm over the moon with delight, dancing with my dad. I pulled my head back to the present and realized I was singing that song under my breath. I felt a little crazy. I peeked at my father. He grinned. "You remember that song? I sang that to you when you were little." He moved his hand closer. "Do you think there's any way you could give us another chance?" 4-year-old me wanted to say yes. 6-year-old me said, "No way." I'd spent a lot of my 50 years hanging out with my 6-year-old in a protective posture. I didn't know if I was able to open my heart up like my 4-year-old once did. I sat there, silent and still in stuckness. My father started to pull his hand away. "It's okay. I understand." I'd never heard that tone of caring from him before. I closed my eyes to calm my confusion. I heard my mother's voice. "There's love in your father and you trying to get out. There's good man in your father trying to get out. We need to let people be who they are now and not hold them to who they were then." What if my mother was right? I reached for my father's hand. "I'll be here when you get out of surgery, Dad." Thank you.